is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious. So, we are going to do a live story, but first, I'm going to correct my mistake. I said that the video on Friday was number 15. It was not supposed to be 15, it was supposed to be 14. Apparently, I don't know how to count. So, we already got 15. We'll do 14. So, this is going to be number 14. Just in case you're wondering, it's because I skipped it. Anyways, so we talked about that. And then let's see. Okay. And I just, it's been a rough year. Okay. I'm not surprised that I can't count considering everything that's happened this year. Okay. So for the ones that don't know, I've had so many losses this year. I just need a break, right? And I really wanted to give up on YouTube. I kept going. I grew more during one of the roughest parts of my life than I did any other time. So I think that it's helped me in a way because I didn't want to do anything. Okay. So it kept me making videos, it kept me getting up and doing things, it kept me motivated. It helped. And maybe it shouldn't have, but I don't know. I'm not your typical person. So, anyways, um, but I also have set a goal for myself. I am so close, guys. I am so close to getting the 500 subscribers, right? I'm at what, 395. I'm so close. I just want to get to 500. So if you're not subscribed, if you could subscribe, it would make me tremendously happy and I would super appreciate it. And I just want to let you guys also know I got notes over here that I have big plans and I want to do a lot of traveling this next year. So I'm actually going to be sitting down. Let's see. I'm off tomorrow. I got to work Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to come up with my travel schedule for at least January. So that way I can have an idea what how I'm going to plan my videos and stuff, right? Because I really want to bring you guys with me and I kind of want to do live videos when I go do like these travel adventures that I'm going to go on and stuff. I think it'd be more fun because then I could also get your feedback live. Like you guys can share whatever story you have about whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm at, or whatever. I think it'd just be more involved for everybody if I just did live streams when I go travel. I can't wait. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to come up with that schedule and stuff. I really want to start next month. I'm really hoping the snow holds off. But being in the Midwest, you never know. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. It's Christmas and it's going to rain tomorrow. It's the Midwest for you, though, right? So, anyways, um, we are going to get back into our Christmas stories. These stories come from the book 50 Christmas Scary Stories by John White. And that last video was only one story, but it was so long, so I only did the one story. Because I don't like to do super long videos. It's a lot of editing and overlays, and it's a lot. And I don't have a lot of time. Well, I think I'll have more time now that Christmas is about to be done. So I'm kind of hoping that's going to be the case, but you never know. So, anyways, we're going to get back into these stories. The next story, oh, yeah, one person voted and they said 2 hours. We're going to try really hard to get 2 hours. I mean, I brought a drink. It's a firework margarita. One of them frozen deals. You just pop it in the freezer and stuff. But I didn't feel like sucking it out of a pouch. So I'm going to drink it out of my Daryl mug from the Walking. Anyways, the first story, let me find the story. I didn't set up the story. I had everything like noted out so that way I wouldn't forget anything that was important anyways. But before we get into the story. How am I supposed to drink this if it's frozen? Oh, maybe that's why you're supposed to suck it out of the pouch. I should go get a spoon. No, I think while I'm reading the story, it'll melt and then I can drink it, but it's really good. Firework margarita. So good. It's dangerous. Oh, I also have moonshine too. I'll save that for tomorrow. So, this first story is called What Happened to Mason Keating. What is going on here? What happened? Okay. I don't know what happened. That was really weird. A year has passed since Mason Keating, 23, the older brother of 17-year-old Layla Keating, vanished into the woods on Halloween and never came back. Wait, these are supposed to be Christmas stories. So the last story was about Halloween. This story's about Halloween too. That's not Christmas. Just saying. Okay, if your book's called 50 Scary Christmas Stories, I don't expect the Halloween story. Okay, just saying. Teams of searchers comb the area for. Here's what I found. Siri, we didn't ask your opinion. She's so annoying. Anyways, teams of searchers combed the area for clues but came up empty handed. The foul play was unexpected, and the lack of a corpse has sparked a lot of suspicion. The sheriff's office should be contacted if anyone has any information. Layla stuffed a news clipping into her pocket that she had found at a petrol station outside of town. I don't call them that. I call them gas stations, but cool. Petro. She was now standing in a clearing in those woods where many people enjoyed throwing parties throughout the year, the most famous of which was Halloween. She stood in the tree line, peering out over the overgrowth that brushed against the tops of her black knee high boots. There was no trace of the party a year ago, of the flames that raged through the clearing, or of what happened to her brother that fatal night. No words, no leads for a year. Layla left the little town she grew up in a few months after Mason vanished, hoping Mason's former college dorm may have information. But she came up empty handed. His housemates simply knew he went home to a party. Wait, his housemates simply knew he went home to party, which had been a tradition of his since sophomore year of high school. While it may be true, why did her brother disappear? And why was he the only one who did so? Hello, Layla, I say. When Layla heard his voice, she jumped. When she turned around, Henry was standing behind her. Henry was a friend of Mason. Wait, Henry was a friend Mason met that night and the last person to see Mason alive, according to reports. That's suspicious right there. He stood there in a black, loose fitting robe and black gloves, a black hood, and a Sith. I don't know. Comment down below because I know I said it wrong. A scythe? Seath. Scythe. Well, anyways, in one hand and a little case with a golden buckle in the other. Carrying a black hood and a Seath in the other. There's that word again. You scared me, she murmured, expecting her heart to continue to race. Henry gave a warm grin. I see you got my message. I did, she responded, her gaze fixed on him. What are you supposed to be? Of course, I'm the Reaper. I mean, she laughed. Of course you are. Her hands tightened on her bag straps as she turned around. You mentioned that you wanted to show me what happened that night. I feel like a little kid. I'm like super tired because I've worked all day. I've worked the last 4 days in a row. So tired. And it's busy as hell. Oh my God, it's so busy. Christmas Eve is the busiest time of year. But, anyways, I know. Oh, and Zusie's joining us. Zusie, this is my baby. I know. This is my baby. Aww. No, you're gonna lay over there? Okay, now she's tired of being petted now. Let's see. I don't know where I left off at. So I'm just gonna start the paragraph over again because I don't know. She laughed. Of course you are. Her hands tightened on her bag straps as she turned around. You mentioned that you wanted to show me what had happened that night. And I shall, in due course. He walked into the clearing with a smile on his face. On All Hallows Eve, there's still a party to be had here, he added as he turned back. It's the one night when the realm between the living and the dead is at its weakest, right? Interesting, she shrugged, attempting to shake the cold. How come you're so late? Are you seeking for something realistic? And I'll show you that in due course. Layla nodded, but she didn't feel like waiting for him to set up whatever party they had planned for that night. Then, if you're still not ready, I'll return to the diner. It was the last location Mason was seen before he arrived here. I just wanted to double check that nothing has been overlooked. Of course, I'm merely here to assist, Henry said with a wink. I'll be back before dark, love. Layla's spine tingled with a shiver. She turned around and walked back out of the woods, grinning at Henry. Can't even say the guy's name. So damn tired, guys. Oh. The diner was only a 15-minute walk from the party location, and while she should have stopped first before walking all the way in, she didn't want to miss meeting up with Henry or give him the impression that she wasn't coming. She didn't know what she could possibly uncover after a year that the detectives hadn't, but she had to try. With the age screaming on the outside, the cafe still had the same attraction it did when it first opened in the 1950s. Like the paved and empty parking lot, the black and white checkerboard floor with red accents was chipped and faded. The only server had a pink uniform and blue rimmed glasses, with her gray hair tucked back in a low bun. Frances was her name, according to Layla's memory. She was the same waitress who took their orders that night, double chocolate chip milkshakes with extra syrup, and was the one who consoled Layla when she learned Mason was missing. That's a tongue twister. Frances had worked there for as long as Layla could remember, and very likely much longer. Her parents used to take them there when they were young, but they hadn't been there in a long time since they died. His sophomore year, Mason was the one who started the custom. He'd take Layla home before entering the party after they had milkshakes. Layla was not a fan of the holiday. Layla took a seat on the broken and faded crimson bar stool, except for an older man sitting in the corner sipping a cup of coffee. The diner was usually filled this time of night with the soon to be partygoers. Frances walked down the stairs and came to a halt in front of Layla, notepad and pen in hand. Sweetheart, what can I buy you? Frances spoke in a coarse tone that Layla remembered. Hello, Frances, Layla said with a smile. It's been quite some time. Hun, I've seen a lot of individuals on a daily basis, so I apologize if I don't recognize you. What are you looking for? Layla's face was flushed as she replied, an extra syrupy double chocolate chip milkshake. I'll be right up. Before returning to the magazine that sat open on the counter, Frances laughed and placed a small sheet up on the cook to grab. Layla felt humiliated. She hadn't been away for very long, at most 3 months. Layla looked around and discovered a bulletin board on the wall. There were help sought and for sale signs everywhere. Mason's poster had been up in the middle of that board since the day she left town to hunt for work, but it had vanished suddenly. It had just been a year since they had just wait. It had just been a year since they had last seen each other. What makes you think it's gone now? Layla murmured, twisting on the bar stool. Excuse me, what happened to the missing persons flyer? What? Frances inquired, her glasses perched on the bridge of her nose. How come my brother's missing person poster is missing? Hun, in all the years I've been here, there's never been a missing persons photo there. Layla's heart began to rush. She turned around and reached for her bag, pulling out the flyer she usually carried with her, unfolding it carefully and held it up for Frances to see. Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason. We came in here on Halloween a year ago, as we always did, and he vanished that night. She fought to hold back tears as she said, You you held me while I cried. Before responding, Frances took a step closer to get a better look at the flyer. Listen, no one in our town has ever gone missing. I'm sorry for what happened to your brother, but that didn't happen here. Yes, yes, Layla said, her voice rising as she struggled to maintain her cool. The door to the diner rang with a ringing bell. Sheriff Barker stepped in the door, and Layla spun around. She felt relieved. He had the same gray mustache and stern dark eyes that he had a few months previously, only slightly balding. His waist belt looked to be a little tighter than she remembered, but that didn't bother her. She looked at him, waiting for a response. He vowed to keep in touch with her as the investigation progressed. I feel like there's a huge twist coming here. I feel like it's setting it up, right? And I'm really tired and I'm catching this one. Sheriff, is something wrong here, Francis? He inquired, his gaze falling on Layla. It's all right, Bob. I just think this girl is a little lost. What? No, Sheriff, it's me, Layla. Layla Keating, Layla explained. You knew my father. You ran my brother's case when he went missing. Last year. I grew up here. You knew my father. You ran my brother's case when he went missing last year. No one goes missing around here, ma'am. Ma'am? Take a look, she added as she held up the flyer. Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason Keating, Mason. he vanished. He vanished behind this house in the woods. A search for him was launched, but no results were found. You promised you'd keep me informed, and that you wouldn't give up looking for him. And then there's this? She took the newspaper piece from her pocket and drew it out. It was just released this morning. Sheriff Barker gave each a thorough examination before shaking his head. I'm sorry, but I've never seen you or the man in the photo before in my life. This is something I never saw in the newspaper this morning when I read it. Now, why don't you come down to the station with me and we'll get this sorted out? Layla took a step back and said, No. How can you not believe me? How could you forget? Now pay attention. Layla, on the other hand, did not. She grabbed her luggage and dashed out the door, avoiding the police officer's clutches. She persisted, rejecting the sheriff's pleadings to turn back, until she was deep in the woods. She took a breath, she took a breather under a tree, and a tear streamed down her cheek. They couldn't recall anything. It's great if they don't remember her or her parents, but how could they forget Mason? Either A, they didn't forget about him, they just want her to think that they forgot, right? And they really know what happened to him. Or B, there's going to be a different twist where she's like delusional or something. I don't know what it's going to be. What do you think it's going to be? I want to know. The sun's brightness began to fade when it came into contact with the fading trees. Layla slung her bag back on her back and walked towards the clearing before the darkness swallowed the light completely. It became impossible for her to keep her composure. Who was looking for Mason if they couldn't remember? I should have never left in the first place. Henry remained in the clearing, his hood pulled over his face, and his teeth in his hand. As she broke through the trees, Layla's grief transformed to rage. She yelled, "What the hell are you doing? This isn't the time to put on a show. You pledged to assist me in determining what happened to Mason." "And I'm maintaining that promise," he added, his voice echoing in the room. Layla closed her eyes and counted to 5, attempting to calm down. "Well, why isn't anyone aware of my brother?" she inquired, her eyes wide. "Time operates in ways we don't comprehend," he murmured as he took a step forward. "If you stick with me, I'll show you what happened." Henry made a U-turn and walked towards the woods. Layla stared there, perplexed, before following him inside. As she tripped over roots and down tree limbs, keeping up with the black silhouette became a challenge. Mason was believed to have gone into the woods to relieve himself. They hadn't seen him since then. How deep did he delve? "Henry," she yelled, pausing for a breather before continuing. Man, she's always out of breath, ain't she? Are are you sure you're traveling in the right direction?" Layla took a few more steps, leading her back to the clearing. She searched around but couldn't find Henry. The chest he was holding sat on flattened grass in the midst of the clearing. He did nothing but walk in her. Wait. He did nothing but walk her in a circle. She cried, "Henry, can you tell me what you're doing?" Layla couldn't tell where his voice came from because it came through the trees. "Step ahead and open the box if you want to know what happened." "What?" "We're looking for a willing participant. It was your brother." Layla walked over to the case, clutching her bag. Her instincts shouted for her to turn and flee, but she had no choice. She needed to know what happened to Mason and why so many people had forgotten about him. She knelt down even lower, against the darkness that enveloped her. The gold clip shone brightly. She inhaled deeply and pressed the clasp to lift the lid. Inside, there was nothing. I kind of figured that too. "I'm tired of your games, Henry. What happened to Mason?" The noises came from the trees. No, from inside the box. Layla stood up, her heart racing. "Henry!" "I'm sorry, Layla," I say. Out of the box, black hands reached up. They grabbed Layla's arm and dragged her down into the darkness, causing her to scream. "Wake up, Layla!" Layla's eyes widened. She sat up and noticed a man in front of her. With his overgrown beard and filthy face, he appeared harsh. His garments were ripped to shreds. He donned a shabby pirate outfit last Halloween, not clothes. "Mason?" Layla breathed a sigh of relief and wrapped her arms around him. He held her back with the same intensity with which she cried out in relief. I didn't think you were dead, and you didn't abandon me. I'm very sorry, Layla, Mason said as he backed away. I know I should have been home by now, but I'm not sure what went wrong. I went into the woods with Henry, and eventually I arrived here. Layla looked around and replied, It's Henry. Come on, we've got to get out of here. There's no way. I've spent the entire night looking for something, but there isn't anything. Layla jumped as she heard a shriek in the darkness. As she moved closer to Mason, seeking comfort from him, the comfort she had sorely missed. What's going on, Mason? I'm not sure. There was a girl here before me, but she was suffocated by the darkness. I've been able to stay away from it. The yells subsided. Layla sat for a moment, gathering her thoughts, before returning her gaze to her brother. She wrapped her arms around him and murmured, I've missed you so much. I'm not going to let you go like that again. Hey, Mason replied as he drew back from her. I was only gone for a couple of hours. A few hours? She asked again, thinking about it. Mason, it's been a year since you've been gone, and for some reason, everyone has forgotten about you. What? I'm not sure how anyone forgot about you, forgot about us. But we'll figure it out, right? Layla, I'm sorry. Mason's mouth started to spit blood. When Layla saw a hand reaching through Mason's chest, she screamed. As additional hands grabbed him and pulled him away into the darkness, his eyes begged with her. Mason! Layla shouted and attempted to rush after him, but it was futile. She couldn't see much further than a few feet front. Wait. She couldn't see much further than a few feet front of her. Okay, we're gonna let that one slide. He was gone, and she was alone in the darkness, surrounded by the animals who cried out to her. I apologize, Layla, but this had to be done. Layla turned around to see Henry standing behind her, still dressed in the same clothing he wore before, but it now seemed more appropriate, flowing in the breeze. What the hell were you thinking? Every Halloween, a sacrifice is required to keep the animals from crossing over. It must be someone who goes unnoticed in the human world. And two orphans? Well, you scumbag. Layla was brought to her knees by a booming bell. As Henry approached her, she looked up. The night has come to an end. You only have a year left. This location needs to be occupied at all times, and don't worry, time moves faster here. Henry had vanished. Layla hurried into the night, urgently searching for something, anything, that could save her life. Layla's last trace was lost in the human realm as another night succeeded in keeping the demons at bay, at least until next Halloween. These are supposed to be Christmas stories, right? And that was all about Halloween. Okay. And there was a twist. It wasn't the one I thought it was going to be, but there definitely was a twist. What did you think about that story? That was quite a twist there. Oh, look, it's melty now. It tastes dangerous. So dangerous. Anyways, we're at a half hour. Wow, that was a half hour. I did a lot of talking. I forgot. Anyways, the next story is called The Little Ones. In the small town of Bramble, there aren't many of us left. But those who do know what needs to be done every Halloween. Another Halloween story. 50 Christmas scary stories, but now 3 stories have been about Halloween. Okay. Oh, isn't my baby? Yes, isn't my baby? Well, anyways, we must be prepared for the arrival of the little ones for their snacks. The preparations aren't that dissimilar from what you'd find in any other city. Each house is decked out in a joyful yet ominous manner. Incredibly big spiders climb up the walls. Skeletons line the yards, and jack o' lanterns grin in the glow of candlelight. When the sun begins to drop, we all get extra large candy dishes and place them at the door. We reside on the outskirts of Black Nettle Forest, which is its own planet. No one enters the building. When you walk up to the trees and smell the odor, you start to feel sick. Your hair is standing on end, your muscles are stiff, and you have a deep sense of dread. You start to sense a loathing in the pit of your stomach. You are forced back with each step, as though repulsed by a force field. We've all been through it, and that's all you need to know. Our town has an unspoken agreement to keep the forest alone, which we follow. However, it does not abandon us. The enormous trees stay hauntingly silent throughout the year, and darkness exudes from the large clearing. In a hauntingly unnatural way, light cannot permeate through the covered boughs. Boughs? I think it's boughs. For the majority of the year, the wooded wall hovers silently over all of us, like a tall, shrouded creature breathing down your neck. The trees, on the other hand, begin to rustle on one night each year, while the branches shake back and forth as the moon rises. Everyone feels a chill. The wind appears to be blowing with the promise of a thunderstorm approaching. The trees shake and swirl in a rhythmic pattern every Halloween. Every family stands on their doorstep, waiting for the night's events to unfold. The shaking then abruptly stops, just as it began. The trees have remained still. The town has fallen silent. The little ones are on their way. Remain in your costumes and avoid making any unexpected movements. Also, make sure the kids are in their rooms, I tell my wife. Our family has persevered for many years, and we want to do so again. On this night, we don't let our kids out. This isn't a night of fun and celebration, as it is in most locations. It's a night of serious ceremonies and responsibilities. It's all about surviving. The children will not be outside and they will not be receiving candy. Every adult in Bramble takes a position in front of their home and gazes out into the woods. It starts after a minute or so has passed from the dark clearing in the distance. The little ones split out. Their bright shapes contrast sharply with the blackness from which they emerge. There. I'm a leaner. My back hurts. Anyways, their bright shapes contrast sharply with the blackness from which they emerge. They're all between 3 and 4 feet tall, with some being slim and others being chubby. They look to be covered in a white sheet, with 2 small eye holes revealing nothing but a dark emptiness inside. In their rounded cloth hands, each of them carries a tiny sack. They walk slowly and clumsily, toddling around like a young toddler, but never falling. Some are alone, while others are part of a group. As the night grows darker They amble towards the town in greater numbers. The air has a noticeable chill to it, as though the temperature is dropping with each step ahead. Every door in sight has a line of excited little creatures in front of it as the crowd of them fills the town. As we meet them and prepare to face the evening, we all have a painful smile on our faces. The first one arrives at my door, followed by a long queue of others. I take a handful of candy from the enormous bowl. The little one raises a little bag above its sheeted head and keeps it aloft while remaining perfectly still. I carefully place the pieces in the bag, and the thing remains still. I swallow anxiously and continue to smile, the corner of my mouth twitching. I'm aware of the pressure I'm under to do everything flawlessly, right down to the last detail. For a few more seconds, it stands in front of me, cloth arms raised. Then there were a couple more. I start reaching for more candy because the pause is so painful. It lowers its luggage and sits on my doorway at that point. I keep my grin in place and it doesn't budge. Then it raises its tiny head. With its black hole eyes, it stares intently at me, but all I perceive is a gloomy abyss. What could it be thinking? Exactly. I finally take a regular breath after it spins around and saunters off the porch. I don't know what saunters means. The next person takes a step forward. I return a fleeting glance to my wife, who gives me a sorrowful smile and a reassuring expression that implies she's on my side. I turn around to face the next one and wait for the same thing to happen again. It lifts its cloth arms with the candy bag in hand, and it lingers for an uncomfortably long time. It slowly lowers its bag and wanders away, just like the first. We'd only have a couple more hours of this before we'd be safe. The moon has moved higher in the sky. The night is cold and calm, and as I look about at our neighbors, I notice an increasingly number of tight smiles that are starting to fade. Tonight will test our endurance, and I hope we're all up to it, as we have been in previous years. It's difficult to say how much time has passed, but we're all hoping to keep our guard up until the very end. For as long as any of us can remember, this has been going on. Indeed, our village could be the birthplace of Halloween as we know it today. We don't know how or when it began, but we do know that we have a responsibility to continue the tradition. Our village is the last line of defense against our planet and theirs. Our forefathers and mothers have given so much to protect us and the regions beyond our reach. Some of our forefathers even gave their lives for the cause. They learnt the little ones' customs with time and dedication, but not without making mistakes along the way. As a result of costly mistakes during the ceremony, we were forced to give up one of our own as a punishment. These are unacceptable: forgetting to smile in reverence, running out of sugar offerings, and not properly beautifying the house. Although the losses were heartbreaking, the benefit was the knowledge we now possess. The little ones will be satisfied for another year if all goes according to plan. When the next little one approaches the door, my cheeks begin to hurt. Like the others, it raises its sack over its head and waits. I go for the candy bag with a fistful of candy, but one piece begins to slip through my fingers. Unconsciously, my body reacts by reaching out to catch the falling treat, except for one that teeters on the edge for a brief second before dropping to the porch. The pieces slip and fall into the sack. The little one lowers its bag and tilts its head to the side quickly. For a split second, I scowl in disbelief at my blunder. I had shattered the facade. I think it's facade. The sweets falling is like a boom of thunder since the area is so quiet. I noticed the neighbors casting a worried gaze our way. Every little one, in unison, comes to a halt and turns to face me, their deep, soulless eyes piercing me. Hundreds of creatures dressed in sheets are staring at our home. Grab the kids, I tell my wife sternly. As the sheet creatures get closer, a gathering forms around our doorstep. I try to telepathically beg forgiveness from the little one standing in front of me by staring into its abyss like eyes. As panic and adrenaline take hold, the circle surrounding our house becomes larger and larger. The little one glances up at me after dropping its bag to the ground. It makes a circular motion in my direction, but I can see it's pointing to the room behind me. Please, no! I yell to keep it from coming in. I sprawl out my arms and legs across the entryway. It glides forward and smoothly goes through me. It makes its way down the corridor while my wife comforts our two screaming girls. With a stealthy determination, it approaches them. It makes a fast turn and raises its arms to our youngest daughter. My other daughter and I are being pushed back, both screaming. I stand there watching as it drifts towards my youngest, staring at her intently. It wraps its sheep body around her and totally engulfs her in a quick movement. No! We all exclaim in disbelief. Tears start to fall down our cheeks. One of ours has been claimed by the little one. The crinkling of plastic wrappers hitting the ground outside startles us. Our next door neighbor's candy bowl has been emptied on the yard. We hide our sobs and avert our gaze away from ourselves. The swarm of little ones spins around in synchrony once more, this time towards the house next door to ours. This time, they don't move from their original position. There is no sound. Across the street, another neighbor dumps their bowl in the yard. Another neighbor down the street does the same thing. And then there was another. And then there was another. Our entire town will soon be throwing candy on the ground in front of their homes. The little ones twirl left and right, their bodies swinging around to comfort each pile of sweets that falls. They'd never had to deal with such disobedience before. We'd never dared to be that daring before. Our daughter is released by the beast inside our house, and she falls to the ground. My wife goes over to her and grabs her. The little one hurries back out of our house, weaving her way among the crowd. They all start trembling and crowded close, their dark eyes pointing outward. Every one of our neighbors is waiting in silence to see what will happen. The little one picks up the sack it had dropped and dashes through the mob to the nearest candy mound. It leaps into the mound and begins frantically gathering candy into its bag. The others are trembling as they watch. They are shaking more and more violently, as if they are starving. Another runs out into an adjacent candy pile in an instant. Then there was another, and then another. Little ones scramble to fill their bags with as many treats as possible, and our village becomes a frenzy. Adults and children alike are sitting on their porches, dumbfounded, as the catastrophe unfolds in front of their eyes. On this night, none of us had ever witnessed such chaos. We had no idea something like this could happen. We accepted the idea that the little ones would steal our friends and family if we didn't serve them correctly, generation after generation. They are now displaying their first signs of frailty. To get the candy, the little ones pile on top of each other, pushing, pulling, and tussling violently. Despite the fact that they are immaterial to us, they are obviously capable of physically harming one another. As they pound and trample one another, high pitched squeals erupt from every direction. Candy wrappers crinkle as they fly across the yards in sporadic bursts. Minutes pass as the candy is ripped to shreds, and the noises of chaos reverberate across the room. The ground suddenly rumbles as a breeze blows through the town. The air becomes cold. The little ones immediately cease what they are doing. We all glance up to see the black nettle forest trees swinging once more. It's not the normal wind this time. A fierce gale blows through the trees, forcefully shaking the branches as if they were in the middle of a hurricane. The trees take a step forward, then take a step back, then go backwards. It's as if the forest is reprimanding its children, waving and asking them to return home. It would not be permitted if they misbehaved during the ritual. A low, violent groan emanates from the black clearing as it spreads wide. Once more the little ones quake. They rise as if afraid of the retribution that awaiting them. Oh, that's much better. So much better. They turn to face the jungle with their heads hung low. The wind howls ferociously and rips across the town. It catches one of the critters and throws it back into the woods, spilling its candy all over the place. With a piercing squeak, another gets picked up by the breeze and soars out into the distance. The rest of them make a last ditch effort to collect whatever candies they can before being pulled into the forest's black maw. Sheet after sheet vanishes until there are none left. The breeze dies away as the wooded clearing closes. Silence. All of our neighbors exchange shocked looks across the street. I encircle my family in my arms and clutch them firmly. It doesn't take long for the citizens of Bramble to burst out into laughing. Wait. It doesn't take long for the citizens of Bramble to burst out laughing and celebrating. It doesn't matter whether there's a strew of sweets strewn across every inch of the ground. We were successful. They'd been summoned back into their own domain, but this time they'd been defeated totally. Who knows if they'll return next year? But we have a shot now. We can fight back next Halloween. Holy shit, dude. We're at what? 48 minutes. I am so tired. So tired. I don't think I can do 2 hours, guys. I, I'm having a hard time right now. Hold on. I want to see. Oh, these are all long stories. Actually, I'm gonna do another live stream tomorrow, so that'll count towards my 2 hours. And then I was planning on doing a couple more live streams. One on New Year's Eve because I'm off. One on New Year's Day because I'm off. And I'm actually off the day after New Year's Day too. It's fucking awesome. I don't understand. Probably because I just worked 4 days in a row for fucking Christmas. And honestly, we're not gonna be busy for New Year's. Everybody's gonna be at the bar partying and shit. God, that tastes dangerous. But we're gonna do one more story. Plus, Sax is in the picture now, and Zusie's still here. But Sax is like the camera hog right now, and he won't go nowhere. You better not knock anything over though. It's his favorite. Knocking shit over. Oh, I still gotta eat dinner too. I probably shouldn't be drinking. Oh, well, I don't work tomorrow. It's Christmas. Anyways, this story is called The Dying Grass. I mean, our grass is still pretty fucking green. It's kind of weird. Zeusy. Zeusy. Zeus. Zeusy. He's my baby. Yeah, he's just gonna chill there. He ain't gonna move. Anyways, he's not like Zeus. Zeus is like me. She can't sit still either. We have a problem. Plus, I'm really fucking tired. That doesn't help. Anyways, let's get into this story, and then I'm probably gonna call it a night because we'll be at 1 hour at least. But I think this is quite another long story, so maybe it'll put us almost at the 2 hour mark. But I'm not gonna feel bad if I don't get there. Okay, that's it. I tried, but it's been a brutal 4 days for me. Last 4 days have been brutal. Okay. Anyways, this story is called The Dying Grass. Let's get into it. As it landed on the ground, the dying grass moon blazed red. The valley was good to its residents as the seeds and green broke through the barren dirt. It did, however, request a tithe in kind. The roots, the hoofed creatures, and the tiller were previously nourished by the canal corridors, along with the night fires. The ripples changed color from black to red. The twilight was filled with smoke and ash. Almond groves that had been abandoned had to be purified and reintroduced to the soil. Brush fires in Sonora and Napa created a smoky smoke that seeped into the country like a beast trapped in a well. Between the Sierras and the hills overlooking the bay, the valley formed a basin. The capital's captains were murdering the earth, and she was retaliating. The skulls would return to life soon after and recount the names of their forefathers. They were all witnesses to the stalks and stem. It tastes so dangerous. California's Central Valley, southbound Interstate 99. The white truck was battered by a thick cloud of brush fire smoke and mosquitoes. For most locations, summer had come to an end a month ago, but the heat had scarcely abated. There were concerns of lawsuits and interviews with the affiliated press after the driver spent the last 20 minutes telling a mother her salt kit was missing. She was one of three people sitting on a never ending stack of mature material. The deputy was going to light another candle during Mass. The engravings on the bronze coin calmed my nagging desires. Deputy Lopez was pleased to be transferred to the Rural Crimes Units. She couldn't deal with people any longer. Well, you know what I can't deal with? These fucking stories that sound like there's four different stories and they just push them all together. How does any of that fucking paragraph have anything to do with the next sentence in front of it? Or after it, for that matter? Mm-hmm. This will definitely be the last story tonight. I don't think I can handle it. Maya managed to go 60 days without having to explore the bottom of an orange container of expired medications. Son of a bitch. When the devil on her shoulder began to whisper, she kept her attention with coffee and her sketch pad. Breaking generational bonds requires a lot of willpower. For the evening, Hispanic women shut down their fruit stalls and improvised stands. The service station's broken corners had seen better days. Mock grenades were thrown at locomotives and massive machineries by teenagers. As underpaid laborers began their second shifts, floodlights bled across the groves of trees. Many of them traversed treacherous terrain in the hopes of snatching a sliver of the American dream. Farmers had to spend a king's ransom to put up stronger barricades and pay after hours vet fees to stem the bleeding of their precious animals caused by feral dogs. They culled the unattached and young. Fighting consumed calories, so the monsters went after those who couldn't battle their way back to their caves. As the mutts pulled what they could into the undergrowth, the farmers could hear moans and calls for the calves. Maya couldn't think of a better way to describe the valley than this. Everyone was stranded in this place. These critters were losing their dread of man, as seen by their sloppy paw impressions, because the mongrels' tummies were full, but their bloodlust was not. They began to hunt for prey as a pastime. The howling of the hounds served as a calling card. Maya kept track of the time and pauses in between barking. She'd spent a lot of her tum- tumultuous youth in this area, breaking into old man Mason's water towers and smoking under the old bridge. They shared a wide range of mythology, which evolved with each generation. She'd heard about the farms that took part in the strange. Her favorite was a book about refugee rights. Farmers in the Bible Belt escaped across the clutches of the banks and droughts. In exchange for labor and blood, the Golden State promised milk and honey. The poor salary was driven down by desperate workers. The children were left to their own devices while the elders labored in the sun and the soil. When fathers and mothers returned home, they discovered that not every member of their family had been found. The flat land was far from the valley's huge predators, but what else could have kidnapped the kids in the thicket? Mothers wept while fathers kept crimson shells in their weapons barrels at night. Where small white crosses had been planted in the earth, resentment arose. The preacher was unable to bring comfort, and the Bible was unable to provide answers. The field laborers reverted to their previous habits. Their forefathers didn't always worship at the cross. Instead, they struck sacred pacts. They elevated pleas to the status of rulers, of the flora and fauna. The grief of shallow graves resurrected the long dead choirs of long dead ways. Under the Pentecostal institutions, these congregations melted. The words that resonated through the green and nothingness were strange and visceral at the same time. Maya spent summer nights in the groves with pals, sneaking out to play ghost games. In the thickets, her pals hid trinkets and sweets. It was impossible to predict when a ghoul would feel betrayed. The regulations were straightforward. Always wait till after midnight and never play after that. For a wish, each girl brought a crown before the whispers in the grass arrived. They waited for the candles to go out. A wish might be made by anyone who stayed outside the protective circle the longest. As a rite of passage, they preserved their crown. Maya kept the halo under her bed, fastened by wood, just in case. The sticky door, the sticky sweet odor was pushed Maya's way by the dry air. It seemed as if the country was beckoning to her. So many late night calls inside foreclosed homes and makeshift trailer parks matched the aroma. Death. People sought to outrun it. The fortunate ones met it in the comfort of their homes, surrounded by loved ones. The wealthy could postpone it for a fee. Everyone in those fields would be affected. However, some would be affected sooner than others. The dirt and grass mound opened wait. The dirt and grass mound opened a doorway into the darkness. The sapphire grass was stained with scarlet stains. She entered the little doorway by following the tracks. The holy ground pierced the veils that separated worlds, where the barriers were as weak as the morning mist. This is another one of them fucking stories, guys. I'm over it. Maya slid down the steps, her flashlight steady against the pitch. Hookups and the homeless frequently secluded nooks in the valley. Addicts frequently left needles and anti overdose medication boxes for the county to clean up. During her years on patrol, she had discovered far too many people face down in a heap of their own garbage. It's one of the reasons she applied for a position with the Rural Crimes Unit. As she traversed the sticks, she found nothing of the like. The fresh air from the surface was overtaken by the stench of a wet rag. The black emptiness pulled back the yellow beams from her torch, suffocating the edges of her vision. Small pods, each draped with sackcloth, were dug into the dirt. Prohibition was a benefit to the valley's grape, grape growers and bootleggers. Maya had stumbled upon long kept secrets, ones that even the dead couldn't conceal. Within the tunnels there was a door. Maya was ushered into a small room while keeping an ear out for the dogs. Inside the area there was an old chest. Maya unlocked it and discovered a strange prize. On the marrow was painted a skull with the names of the persons who had perished due to time and apathy. A few tapes and film reels had also seen better days. A distorted diary encased in black drew the flashlight's attention. The 18th of July, 1958. They won't be able to turn off our water. All I need now are a couple more days. Granddaddy rescued us from the ravages of the Dust Bowl. It began with little creatures, which I spared from suffering. They were buried beside the chapel near the tree, where women had laid their stillborn children as a memorial. Maya absorbed the savagery's expressiveness. She began to comprehend why the world's bales were so thin here. People put money into his rundown flat. Slowly but steadily, the rains returned. You express your gratitude to the Creator by praying to Him. However, if He does not respond, you may need to seek out alternative venues. Logan had gotten up to me and was obstructing my progress. It won't wash off. Oh my God. Johnny Law is an exquisite by nature. Instead, please accept this bigger kill. I'm going to have to bury this one even deeper. The door to the landing above the stairwell banged shut. When she asked cop aid, the radio merely made a white noise. If no officers arrived, it could be officer down. Maya clicked on the white noise, which bounced off the walls to request steel traps and red bait. The dark dagger was felt but never seen. Maya was pulled off her feet and slammed against an empty tomb by an unseen hand. The flashlight spirals away from the user. She didn't feel the agony at first, but a fit of wrath pushed her into action. The ghoul grabbed her forearm and shot. Oh, the ghoul grabbed her firearm and shot a dart at Maya's leg. Its apex, Maya smacked her boot into the shin of one of the disciples. During the maelstrom, the suspect fumbled with the bolt. Maya increased the stakes by grabbing her service weapon. A swirl of white fire and dull ash assaulted her five senses as two hot casings fell to the ground. Every time an officer drew on a suspect, a stack of papers piled up. Every bullet was accompanied with a legal action. Maya, on the other hand, was unconcerned about the post incident committees at the moment. The ghoul stomped on her hand with his boot. Warm nickel flowed from her skull like a dripping faucet. Yes, let's feed the soil, he scoffed and smiled. Whether it's your blood or mine. The chapel is delighted. For Deputy Lopez, the boogeyman had the ideal crown and necklace all out. Every day, corporations pressed farms to suck water out of wells until the holes were caked with dirt, and no one could leave the valley. The oasis gradually went back into the ground. Drifters left small codes to stay away from Chapel Black and the underground tunnels for a reason. The assassin trusted the stories. This location granted wishes at a high cost. The drought was unbreakable and desperate. Individuals reverted to their old habits. Maya trudged through the tombs on crutches. She only had a few more minutes to be courageous before her pals came. To remain awake, she sang Sunday school hymns over and over. Against the unending maze, the flashlight flickered. Who built this structure and hidden it for so long? This was a wet dream for an anthropologist. Maya pieced together what she could from the sackcloths buried into the tunnel walls. People. The traditional stories weren't made up. As it landed on the ground, the dying grass moon blazed red. The valley was good to its residents as the seeds and green broke through the barren dirt. It did, however, request a tithe in kind. I swear to God, I've already read this. I had to look at the number of the page. It's a different number, but I swear to God, I read all this already. Okay. The roots, the hoofed creatures, and the tiller were previously nourished by the canal corridors. I did. I swear to God, I did. Along with the night fires, the ripples changed color from black to red. The twilight was filled with smoke and ash. Almond groves that had been abandoned had to be purified and reintroduced to the soil. Brush fires in Sonora and Napa created a smoky smoke that seeped into the country like a beast trapped in a well. Between the Sierras and the hills overlooking the bay, the valley formed a basin. The capital's captains were murdering the earth, and she was retaliating. There's no fucking way. I am not reading this all over again. Why am I reading this all over again? So they repeat the story. Anyways, they repeated that whole fucking story. I'm not reading it twice. Didn't understand most of it the first time. But, anyways, on that note, we are at 69 minutes and whatever seconds. So, I think it's a good time to call it quits. I'm only going to do an hour because I'm exhausted. I cannot keep my eyes open, guys. I was really hoping you guys wouldn't have said 2 hours. Maybe a different day, not tonight. I'm exhausted. It's Christmas Eve. I still got some stuff to do and I need to eat. I'm so hungry. But anyways, I appreciate you. and your time. And I hope you have a good night and a very Merry Christmas. And I will see you again. What day? Actually, you'll see me on Friday. So look forward to that. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.